Greetings, everybody. This is Dr. Gomez. This video will hopefully explain exactly what you're supposed to do for the lab midterm. And notice I have this Word file that's posted on the Georgia View site. And what you want to do is you want to open the Word file, and then you also want to open a blank Excel file. And so here's the Word file, and then here is the well, it was a new Excel file. And now your Excel file, you want to have 4 sheets. You're going to have one graph on each sheet. So notice I have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and sheet 4. And so you want to put, put the title on there. Obviously, instead of Dr. Gomez, you'll put your name. But you want to have your title on sheet 1. And notice in sheet 1, after we do our graph, we want to get a value for the applied force. So you want to set up your cells similar to what I've done here. Or notice cells E6 through H6. I have the applied force F equals. This cell is blank. That's where I'm going to enter the numerical value. And then you want the units. Because what we're doing is in sheet 1, we're going to graph the first set of data. We're going to graph A versus 1 over M. And remember from, I believe it was lab 2 or 3, if you graph A versus 1 over M, the graph will be linear. And from Newton's second law, we know that the slope of that graph will be the applied force. So in sheet 1, we're looking to get the applied force from the slope of the graph. Okay. Then sheet 2, we're going to have our second graph. Well, in sheet 2, it's the universal law of gravitation. You're given this set of data, and you just want to graph F versus R. And we know that from lab 4, I think, but we know from the lab we did, that's going to be an inverse square force. And so your graph should reflect that. So that's going to go on sheet 2. Then the second question has a part B. And in part B, we're graphing 1 over F. This is, again, the universal law of gravitation. We're graphing 1 over F versus R squared. Well, we know that, with the universal law of gravitation, when you graph 1 over F versus R squared, that graph will be linear. So the slope of that graph will be equal to the value 1 over G M1 times M2. Remember, G is a gravitational constant. So so in sheet 3, you're looking for the value of 1 over G M1 M2. So notice you want to set up your one cell to have the 1 over G M1 M2 equals, then a blank cell where you'll type in the numerical value. Then here in cell G5, you want the correct units for that value. Okay. Then in sheet 4, you're doing the third question, Hooke's law. And again, you're graphing F versus X. I'm giving you the data. And we know from the Hooke's law lab that the slope, well, F versus X, the graph will be linear. And we know that the slope of the graph is the spring constant K. So in sheet 4, you're going to graph F versus X. And again, you want to set up a cell. Notice here in E4, I have the K equivalent, meaning the equivalent spring constant. Cell G4, the units, is K is in units of a Newton per meter. And then here in the blank column F4, I'm going to put in the value I get from the slope. And so you'll want your Excel file to have 4 sheets. There'll be one graph in each sheet. And I'll go and you want your graphs to be formatted according to my specifications in terms of font size, formatting the trend line, etc. But I'll walk you through that for sheet 1. And so when you're done, you should have something that looks like this. Okay, here's sheet 1. Okay, notice we're just gonna copy and paste the data from the Word file, and you're gonna notice the graph is formatted. And for the sheet 1, we're graphing A versus 1 over M, and the slope is the applied force. So notice slope, and the value for the slope I just enter there. Then sheet 2, it's just we know that the universal law of gravitation, it's this inverse square force, so the graph should look like such. Sheet 3, we want to get the value of the 1 over g m1, m2. We know that when we graph 1 over f versus r squared, the graph is linear, okay? And the slope is the 1 over g m1, m2. Then in sheet 4, you're graphing Hooke's law, and we know the slope is equal to the equivalent spring constant. And notice all my graphs, notice how I formatted the axes, fonts Times New Roman. You don't want to have too many tick marks. And notice, see how nicely formatted all my graphs are, titles. So, and that's mainly really what you want to focus on. Is you want a nice, professional looking, set of graphs. All right, so let me walk you through how to do this. So again, you've got your spreadsheet. Again, and also before you do anything, what I do when I open a new sheet, before I enter anything, I highlight a bunch of cells and set the font to Times New Roman. And the text can be either 11 or 12. I like 12 because it's a little bit easier to read. So I did that for each sheet. I've highlighted, a whole bunch of cells and just set the font to, here it should be 12. But just highlight, there we go. Yep, Times New Roman and 12. Again, why Times New Roman is the standard scientific font. If you're submitting it, if we were doing submitting these graphs to to get a paper published, if the font is not Times New Roman and the formatting is not correct, they won't accept it. And so it's just a good habit to get into. So anyway, so let's go ahead and let me walk you through how to do the first graph. And again, the first graph is we're graphing. Go back to the Word file, go up to problem 1. And we're graphing A versus 1 over m. And remember again, when we say, with any type of graph, for example, we say acceleration, A versus 1 over m, it's understood that's y versus x. So the A values will be on the y-axis, and 1 over m will be on the x-axis. Well, to make our lives easier, the default in Excel, when you're graphing 2 columns of data in Excel, by default, the first column is the x-axis, and the second column is the y-axis. So I'm just going to go ahead and just take these values from the Word file. I'm just going to copy them, and I'm going to paste them into my Excel file. Probably B8. Let me pause this for a second. Yeah, so I copied the values from the Word file, and I'm going to go ahead and paste them into my Excel file in sheet 1. And I'm right here in cell B6. I'm just going to hit paste. And that's the beauty of, that's why I kept the data in a Word file, because there's no formatting issues. Notice it copied it. We might just have to widen this column a little bit. There we go. And now we can see that I've got, and remember, the first column is X and the second column is Y. Now I want to go ahead and create my graph. So again, I'm going to highlight both columns, including the headers. Okay. Go up to Insert, Charts, and right here, XY scatter. And notice the graph comes up. And notice it's linear as expected. Now we have to do the formatting. Remember, that's the key. One of the major goals of this midterm is to get you accustomed to formatting the graphs correctly. And you can move it where you want a little bit. I just don't want it to see that text. You don't want the graph to cover it. So I'm going to move it down here. I might make it a little bit bigger. And then what you do, depending upon your version of Excel, and most of them I think are the same. Notice I've got my graph here, and see Quick Layout. And I'm going to go to Quick Layout, and I want the first one. And then I don't need this box here, this line. I don't need that. I just highlight it, delete. I'm going to left click on these lines and then hit delete. I don't need those lines. Okay. Now the graph is linear, which is good. I'm going to highlight the line. I'm going to make it black. So I'm going to do Format Data Series. And then here for the, hold on, my cat's going to jump on my computer. Let me pause this. Yeah, my new little cat. Whenever I get on the computer, they hear me typing on the keyboard. Okay, go away, Henry. I got to do this video. All right. So first, right. Oh, he's back. Hold on. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to highlight the line and Format Data Series. I just want to make it black. So I'm going to go up to here, Line Color, and I'm just going to make it black. And the thickness, 1.5, that's a little bit high. I'm going to go 1.25 might be good. Yeah. Okay, so we did that. Now let me go ahead and show you how to I'll show you how to format this first graph, and then you should be able to do the next three on your own. Let me start with the y-axis. And what I do is when I have the, notice you get the crosshairs, and notice when it's the arrow, left click, or no, right click, I'm sorry. And see it says Format Axis. So let me click outside. So what I do is over here, left click, then right, then when I have the arrow, right click, Format Axis. Okay, let's look at the bounds. 0 to 0.7, that's probably good. The major unit is 0.1. Typically, we like the minor unit to be about half of the major. So half of 0.1 is 0.05. That's sort of the rules of, because you don't, come on, Henry, please get down. Damn cat. And then we want the tick marks. We want them to be inside. Okay, and then you can see if you look over, they're showing up. Now let's go ahead and let's do the color. Some of the defaults in Excel, as you know by now, are not very functional. We want the line to be black. There we go. Now see how it's showing up. Okay, now let's go back again here. Right click, font. And we want the font color to be black. It's a little bit tedious, but it is what it is. Probably the size 10 would be good. And then we want everything Times New Roman. Why is that not coming down? Here we go. And or so I went past it. I think if I just had typed in TIM. But yeah, so size 10 black Times New Roman. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the title. Remember, the y-axis is the second column. So the y-axis is the acceleration, and the units are meter per second squared. So I'm going to go ahead and get that right here, axis title. Let me go Format, right click. Let me go back outside. Here, right click, Format Axis Title. Over here in the text options, I want the text direction to be horizontal. Probably, well, not probably, I want the font to be either 11 or 12. Obviously black and Times New Roman. I know, a little bit tedious, but not very difficult. TIM, then down here. Okay, and now let me type in the axis title, and it's the acceleration A, and then the units, left parentheses, the units are meter per second squared, and per S2, close parentheses. Now I want to superscript the 2, so let me go ahead and highlight it, and then go up to here, this little drop down arrow, see superscript, and OK. And we're good with the y-axis. Now let me go ahead and do the x-axis. Go over here. Okay, left click, then when I see the arrow, right click, format axis. Now again, here major minor, the major unit is 0.005. I want the minor to be half of that. That'd be 0.0025. Okay. Over here to color. Remember, I want it black. Let's do tick marks. Tick marks here, inside and inside. See, they show up, and that's typically why we want the minor unit to be about half of the major, because you do not want too many tick marks. Okay, so now let me go ahead and do the font. Hover over, right click, font. And again, this is a little bit tedious. Just the Excel has these defaults. Oops, and you'll want it to be black. Not white. Excellent. What did I say? Probably 11. Or did I say 10? And then again, Times New Roman. Okay, why is that not giving me the drop down? Well, let me try this. Nope. Oh, okay, there we go. I don't know. I was looking to drop down. Okay, so now I've got that. Now let me do the axis title. Again, I want it to be black. 11 Times New Roman. There we go. Finally, it's showing up there. And now remember, the x-axis is 1 over the mass, and the units are kilogram to the minus 1. So I'm going to do 1 over m, and then space, left parenthesis, kg, and then I need the minus sign, insert, symbol, the minus sign right there, close, and then 1. Okay, then close the parenthesis. Then I want to superscript the minus 1. Oop, not the parenthesis. Again, it's somewhat tedious, but let me just pause this for a second. All right, so I've got the title of the x-axis. It's 1 over m, and the units are kilogram to the minus 1. Okay, we'll do the title last. Now let me go ahead and, well, I guess I can do the title now, then I'll do the trend line. So here, the title, I probably, again, Times New Roman. 14 is probably good. We want it bold, black. And we're graphing A space versus 1 over m. And I think that's good. And typically we italicize the variables. So A, we want to italicize the A and the M. All right, that's good. Now, last thing, we need to get the slope. Why? Because the slope is going to be our applied force. So remember, add trend line. Hover over the line, right click, add trend line. Now we know it's linear. We want linear fixed. And we don't want to set the intercept to 0 because we're graphing A versus 1 over m, and so m will never be 0, so we don't want that. We'll leave, but we want display equation and display r squared. And now see the equation box showed up. So let me undo that. So now we want to format the equation correctly. Highlight the text in the equation box. We want that to be red. obviously Times New Roman. And we want the font size to be probably 12. And we just want to make sure that it doesn't obscure the line. I'll move it over here. Then I put a space, an extra space before and after the equals, and then likewise before and after the intercept. And I'm going to italicize the X and the Y. And now everything's looking good. My applied force is the slope, which is the code y equals mx plus b. So it's the 25.131. Oops. That looks good there. Now I want to format the trend line. And so I'm going to hover over, right click, format trend line. And we want it to be, go over here to color. We want it to be red. There we go. And remember, I want the dash type to be this one here. And I want to make it a little bit thicker so I can see it. Yeah, see that? And it's clearly visible. And now it looks like graph 1 is complete. Yep. Oh, last thing here with the equation, y equals mx plus b. The slope is the applied force. I have to type in here the 25.131. Perfect. Then do the same. Now for sheet 2, you're just graphing the data. You're not doing, it's not a linear graph. So in sheet 2, remember part A, you're just graphing F versus R for the universal law of gravitation. Remember, it's an inverse square force. So your sheet 2 should look like that. Then sheet 3, you're graphing again. You're graphing 1 over F versus R squared. And the slope is going to be the 1 over G M1 M2. And then sheet 4, yours should look like that, where you graph F versus X and your slope is the spring constant. So that's what we're doing, and that's why you simply copy the data from each problem into each sheet. So you have 4 sheets and 4 graphs. All right, let me go ahead and save this video and get it posted.